Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to our studio Piano Cafe Virtual Connect. Today, this is our most important and prestigious event. Today, our guest, Miss Ruby Roy from Montreal, Canada, and she is President Emeritus World Federation Tourist Guide Association and APGT Montreal. Welcome to our studio, ma'am. How is you today?
Thank you very much. It's my honor and pleasure to be here, especially with other fellow Bengalis.
Thank you. Viewers, you all maybe know Miss Ruby. She is from Bengali, half of Bengali and half of from Canada, right, Ruby?
Well, I'm Canadian, so I'm not half Canadian. I'm fully Canadian. My father is Bengali, but my mother is not Bengali.
Right. How is the day during the COVID you passing?
Well, it was very difficult at the beginning because already in February, I had almost half of my tours canceled, and by March, April, everything was canceled until 2021. But what I did during COVID is I was actually researching. Researching for the guides. I was researching ways that we can do tours safely, audio systems, testing, 2-meter distance, what we can do, if it's possible to do food tours. So I did a research which I shared with everybody, and we actually had a discussion about that in a training course that I was giving. What I also did is in my own country, politically, I wanted to make sure that the tourism industry, the provincial government, the province of Quebec, the city of Montreal, and the federal government, they were aware of us, of guides, and that, obviously we freelance and that we're self-employed, and that they take into consideration, because financially our year was ruined. What I was also doing is I was doing training outside of the guiding profession. So I was doing law. I was doing also what is it called? It's a media program. So I work with journalists, and I was doing a training with that. I was also giving a lot of training, and I was taking care of my garden, walking and doing photography. That's all we could do, unfortunately.
Ruby, today our subject photographer and film tourism, and hope you are familiar with this subject, right?
I am. I have been a photographer since I was a child. And basically how I got into photography, my father was into photography. He documented everything. And then I inherited his camera, and starting at about 12 years old, the age of 12 years old, I was an apprentice with a photographer. And the photographer, on the weekends, I would help him with wedding photos. He would teach me how to do the dark room and so on and so forth. And then when I got into CEGEP before university, part of my program was in photography, and I was studying film. So we were making movies, we were learning the background side of the movie, the sound and so on. And that continued in university, that continued onwards. So what I was doing to pay for my habit is for the photographer studio that I was working at when I was a child. Every Saturday I would do wedding photos, which I actually don't like doing, but it paid for other things that I wanted to do. And then eventually I took more professional photo courses, and I ended up working to create models' portfolios. I was doing portraitures, and then eventually I was hired to work for certain organizations to do travel photography, which I still do today. And I also do documentary. What I also do in terms of photography is I restore old photographs. So black and white photos, for example. The last time I was in India to see my family, I took all the black and white photos and I redid them and recreated them and then copied them and sent them back. So photography has always been part of my life. And starting in November, I'm actually giving for people that have difficulty learning online photography courses on how to use light and so on. So it is a very important part of my life. Also, for the past 28 years, I have been working with journalists, media, travel writers, food writers, TV programs, National Geographic Traveler, Lonely Planet, and so on. Now, I wasn't working with them as a photographer, but what I was doing was I was what we call in English the fixer. So I would find all the location shoots, where they were going to shoot, told them the best type of lighting, got them the permission, so if it was indoors and so on. And either I was behind the camera, but sometimes with the film shoot, they would put me in front of the camera and I would speak about certain locations and so on. So you could say that it's been part of my life. I was also media relation manager at Tourism Montreal. And my specialty was always working with photographers and with film crews.
Ruby, this is your first official program being brought live in Bangladesh. If you express your feelings, please.
Well, this is amazing because I've actually been to Bangladesh twice for a wedding, my friend's wedding. And obviously, you know, being Bengali, there are a lot of things that are in common, and food is one of them. So it's really an honor and a pleasure, especially that I'm with other Bengalis.
I found that I am of Bengali descent. Is that true?
No, I'm not of Bengali descent. I am Bengali. I'm half Bengali. So my my father my father's family is from the region in India which is called Murshidabad. My grandfather was from a place called Gutitora. My grandmother is from Burhanpur. My grandfather was actually an advocate or a lawyer for one of the Maharajas in Kashipur. And a lot of my family live in an area which is called Purulia. So they're within close distance. So very often people associate Bengalis with Calcutta or Kolkata, but no, they're not from Kolkata. They're from another region. And my family, I mean, most of my family still lives in West Bengal, with the exception of one or two family. And my father, though Bengali, his first language was actually English. And I actually will share it to you. I'll send it to you. My father is an author, and he's written several novels in Bengali that were published, and poetry books and so on. So, of course, in a Bengali family, music, art, singing, dancing are very important.
Important in our life. So, I love Kolkata very much, because when I go to Kolkata, then I feel this is my country.
Yeah.
Because their flavor almost same like Bangladesh.
Well, absolutely. We're still Bengalis. It doesn't matter. It may be different country, but it's the same. We love. So how do we identify Bengali? What do we love the most? Fish and rice.
Yes. Yes. Yes, sweet. Ma'am, Ruby, I really feel blessed to introduce myself as a Bengali, whatever would you ever feel that way?
Just one moment, Faisal, I can't hear you.
I really
I have no
feel,
sound, unfortunately. Just give me 1 second. Can you hear me now?
yes, I hear you.
No, I don't hear anything for some reason. I'm sorry, I don't know why. Let me try if I take this out.
Now hear me?
There
You
we
hear
go.
me?
Now I can hear you. Perfect. Yep, all
You
set.
hear
Sorry
me?
about that. All
You
good.
hear me?
I can hear
You
you.
hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay,
What was the question? I'm sorry.
I really feel blessed to introduce myself as a Bengali. What about you? Ever feel that way?
Of course. We're such a small group of us in the world.
Great. That's I am proud that you are Bengali and I am Bengali, and you feel the most prestigious position. You are very passionate woman, tourist guide ever I saw. And next question. Before we start our discussion, I would like to make a request. Say something in Bengali for our Bangladeshi audience or not?
I can't do that. I can't do that, but I can sing for you. Akla chalo re. That's the best I can do.
যদি তোর ডাক শুনে কেউ না আসে তবে একলা চলো রে। Great. So nice, and you are very happy. I am very happy today that you sing a song. This song is Rabindranath Tagore.
Tagore, exactly.
Yes. What do you think is the first thing you need to know to be a photographer?
Well, I think more than anything else, number one is that you have to have passion. So you can't do anything in life unless you're passionate about it. And you also have to have an artistic eye. So if you want to do it for fun, that's one thing. If you want to do it professionally, that's another thing. But the most important thing is to have a sense of understanding light, understanding composition, understanding what your subject is, what the purpose is that you're photographing. So what is the story that you're trying to tell? One of the things I love about photography is that a photograph will never lie. You can lie all you want, but a photograph will never lie. And especially when you look at a photograph in someone's eyes, you will know if the person means it, is serious. Of course, beauty is in the hands of the beholder, but the camera will capture exactly what you are, and you can't hide it. And this is one of the beauties about especially photography. I particularly like black and white, which of course with digital you can do now. I still really enjoy it because with photography, when it's black and white, you can use your imagination. And so I think that to be a very good photographer, especially if you think you're going to be working in it, especially if you're going to be working with people who are into photography, is number one, have a passion for it. Number two, yes, you can do it with the phone, but actually I still think a camera is much better. It may be heavier. Number three is that you learn about light, you learn about composition. Number four is I always suggest that you either learn about, nowadays we do a lot of editing on computer and the phone, so learn how to edit properly. Don't take everything out, Photoshop and so on. Just do small corrections, but don't change the image completely so that it's unrecognizable. And the other thing I would say is that in order to do anything well, you have to practice it. So if you buy a camera, then you need to use it. So give yourself a date once a week, twice a week. Even if the image is bad today with digital photography, it doesn't matter, you can delete, but you need to practice it. And the last thing is ask people to look at your photographs so they can give you some critique. All art, if you don't share art, then there's no point in doing the art. It's like singing. What's the point of singing if you sing to yourself? What's the point of painting if nobody sees your painting? So that's the last thing that I would add.
Sometime we are looking some photographer, they shoot photos, but they go to the Photoshop and edit the photo. I think that is not well. When we taking the photo naturally, then that time must say something about that time. What about you thinking this matter?
You know, Photoshop is a good thing, but when you, for example, today, when we look at magazines and models, and this is changing, you know, with Photoshop, you make the model face thinner, or, you know, the body is thinner. I don't agree with that, you know, or removing all of the marks on the face so that it's perfect. Well, nobody is perfect. And so what ends up happening, of course, for magazines and things, they want everything perfect. But if you're doing, for example, tourism photography, you really shouldn't take away anything. When I edit, the only thing I might edit is, for example, if there's electrical wire and it spoils the sunset, then I might remove it. But otherwise, I leave it as is. And if you shoot with a filter in your camera. But I much prefer natural light, because, as I said, the image that you want to collect is the image that you want to remember. So the more you play with the editing, well, the less it's a real photo. Some touch-up is okay. I don't disagree with that. But generally, I like to leave the shot at it as is. One of the things I tend to sometimes do is cut the image, so cropping, because maybe I wasn't straight or something. But other than that, I tend not to edit as much.
You know, my father, he's no more, because last 2007 we lost him. He's very weak and about passionate photography. He have a camera on that time when the reel, and we need to go for wash. When we shoot the photos, then go to the Photoshop shop, studio, and he done everything. I have that nature, but I am not a professional photographer. Still now, I have no camera, no idea how we capturing or photo shoot. That's why I am very much interested to make myself as a photographer. And next question. You have worked with many big organizations, including BBC, National Geographic. Would you like to share your experience with us? How was the teamwork?
Well, the organizations are. There's some noise in the back, I think.
Yes, in our city, here is the festival mood. You know, the Durga Puja is coming. Yeah.
So I've worked with quite a few magazines, television programs. So National Geographic Traveler was one that I really enjoyed. Lonely Planet. I've worked with celebrity radio, Australian TV, NBC, CBC, and the filming or photography that I did or worked with them, as I mentioned, it is as a fixer, so as a guide, but also as a fixer. What I would do is I would prepare their shoot. So they would send me information, and this was usually through the tourism office, sometimes directly. And let's say that they were going to do a story in Montreal about food. So I would get the permits, permission, and so on, so that we could film in a restaurant, film at the market, photograph, different places. And what I did a few years ago, and I've kept it up since then, is I created I think now it's about 150 pages, and it's a book on all of the different locations to shoot in Montreal with the different light at the different times of the year, the color that you have, the best f-stop and so on. So I use this with my both the film crews and the photographers. So I prepare everything for them, and it makes it easier for them because they don't have to look. So if they tell me, oh, I want to have a space with, let's say people, and I say, okay, no problem. At this time of the day, this is the best time with the best light and so on. And then they would shoot. Inside, for example, the churches and things like that, you have to get permission. Everybody knows me, so usually it's very easy. They walk in with me and we do the photographs. And because of my knowledge of photography, of light and film, we save a lot of time. So what might have taken them 1 week, it takes them 1 day. So if they're here for 1 week, we just add more things. We show them more things, so they have more in their database. I have also done some of the photographs myself. I prepared, for example, the responsible tourism eco tours way before it was popular. I think it was in 2004. So I documented and did my own photographs for the project. And this was for meetings, for example. And today, a lot of the things that I do, so I often get people who are amateur photographers who book me directly for private tours. And they'll spend 1 day, 1 week, 3 days. Usually people who are photographers will spend about 5 days with me. And they give me a list, or I make them a list of things that we do, and then I plan it. So at this time, because of the light and so on. And I also have families who travel together, and they want professional photographs of their travel. So while I'm giving them a tour, I actually do their photographs for them. What I also have quite a bit of is people who are bloggers or who are interested in building their Instagram accounts and so on, or who are influencers who actually hire me to take them to the places, and then they're just shooting with their phone, because many smartphones today, the cameras are excellent. The one that I use has a professional Leica camera. I have a Nikon and a Canon. But I travel, I always have a camera with me, but sometimes, I'm riding my bicycle, I didn't bring it. I got this phone only because of the camera. And normally when I get a phone, the most important thing is how good the camera is. The rest, I don't care.
Ruby, I want to share something from Saudi Arabia. You have a friend, Mr. Khalid Sharabi.
Hi, Khalid.
He said hello.
Khalid. He's a colleague. He's a colleague of ours in Saudi Arabia. He's also a trainer, very professional guide, and I very much enjoyed chatting with him because we think alike. We have the same image about things, so he's awesome.
Yes, he knocked me, and he want to know when your show will start, and he watching till end.
Awesome.
Yes, and another thing from Bangladesh, from Bangladesh, 2 person give a ride the world bicycle. And from one of them, Mr. Ashrafuzzaman Ujjwal, he is the president of Bangladesh Travel Writers Association.
Ah, very interesting. Welcome.
Yes, and I am one of the member of this association. He says, welcome and please pay your visit Bangladesh.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. I feel very blessed to be here.
Yeah, and another one from Philippines. You know, Erwin to tsunami. Tsunami, Venezuela. He says hi.
Hello, how are you?
He's the area president of WFTGA.
Area representative, welcome, welcome. Yes. Very lovely to hear from you and see you. Thank you for joining.
Thank you. Ruby, I want to know something very weak. That's you love cooking, right? Ruby Kitchen said something.
Well, I love cooking, but that's normal because I'm Bengali. What Bengali doesn't love cooking? You know, for those who don't know about Bengalis, when we wake up in the morning, the first thing is you ask everyone, what are we going to have for breakfast? And while you're having breakfast, what are we going to have for lunch? So we have eggs, deem, mash, and then while you're having lunch, we're talking about what we're going to eat at night. So both my parents, my brothers, all of us cook, but the reason that I have a Ruby's Kitchen and Ruby's Garden is, for those who don't know, I am the very first culinary food guide in Canada and in Montreal. And I started this in 1992, that when I was doing my private tours, and I was also the first one to do private luxury tours in my city, I always included a food element. And then when I was working with media, travel journalist with Tourism Montreal, we had a wonderful director. His name was Gilles Bengal. And at that time, when he was a director and he would hire me with a journalist or travel crew or film crew, he would hire me, let's say, from 9 in the morning until, let's say, 3 o'clock. And during that time, of course, I was talking with the media or with the photographer, but I would have lunch with them. So I always took them out to lunch, and I would always pick a place which either was something to do with the story that they were writing about, or something for him to come back and write another story. So I would introduce him to let's say food he's never tried or flavors, and it was small things. It wasn't always, you know, a gourmet meal at $1,000 or anything. It was something simple, and bit by bit I would include it. And sometimes when I spent the day with them, and I said, oh, instead of having lunch, why don't we travel through the city and we'll taste, you know, from small family members and things like that. So this is how it started. And there's no food tour that exists today that I didn't actually start at some point. And because Montreal is known for food, you know, we're known, we have about 7,000 restaurants in the city, but Montrealers are very passionate about food. And one interesting thing about my city is if you ask someone in Montreal, I want to eat, let's say, at an Indian restaurant, then the next question will be, what region of India? So in most places in Western countries, we only have Punjabi food or North Indian food. But in Montreal, they'll say, oh, South Indian, yes. Oh, okay, this one, yes. And it's quite interesting. But when I travel, I also travel for food. I organize, and I've been doing this for some time now, food trips. So people travel with me just to eat in Italy and Spain, in India, in Egypt, and so on. Food is a huge passion for me, and whenever I travel, I document and photograph food. But I also am very lucky because I get to spend time with people, grandmothers, great-grandmothers. I remember one trip which was in Oman, and I met a very elderly Khaliji or Gulf Arab woman. She was adorable, and she taught me her great-grandmother's recipe, and I brought them home. When I traveled to Myanmar, you know, I learned something and I bring it home. When I was in Syria, we went to this place which was so amazing at Crec le Chevalier, which is a Crusader's palace. And I was with my best friend, Jean-François, who I travel with very often. And we were staying at this inn, and it was February, so no tourists anywhere. We climbed up, we stayed there, we were hungry. We came to this place completely empty, and this man was making a meze, like a huge, appetizers that you find in Arabic or Mediterranean food. And then he grilled this chicken. And we were so full already, and we tasted this chicken. It was so good that the next day we traveled 100 kilometers back to eat at this place. And I remember he didn't speak English. It was only Arabic. And I said, what do you do with this chicken? And he said, well, I do this with the garlic, then I grate it. So when I got home, I tried for 3, 4, 5 months. I even got the garlic to come from Syria and so on. And then I called him. I said, it's not the same. I don't know why it doesn't taste. He goes, oh, you have to put it in the fridge. Ah, okay. So for me, food is a passion. And I have a huge garden. I've always had a garden. So I have pretty much every fruit and vegetable you can imagine. And I love experimenting and sharing with people. And of course, there's always Bengali food in my house.
You also love gardening. What about that?
I love gardening.
Yes,
I love gardening.
I followed several times. You have do lot of gardening, and you are very, very choosy about that, right?
I am. I love it. I've always had a garden. Both my parents garden, and I live in a neighborhood where I have a lot of people from the Mediterranean, a lot of Italians. So I grew up with a lot of Italians in my neighborhood. So of course my tomatoes are amazing. But I also grow Asian herbs. So lao. What Bengali doesn't know? Lao posto.
Lao, yes.
I have beautiful lao in my garden.
I want to sing a song, Bengali, Shadher Lao banailo more boiragi, Shadher Lao banailo more boiragi. How about that, Ruby?
That's awesome.
I send you the link. Shadher Lao banailo more boiragi.
I need it.
Yes. And what's your favorite color?
My favorite color. I'm wearing it. It's lilac and purple.
Yes.
That's I call it my summer color. But my favorite color, which is obvious, is red, because I'm a ruby. So in the winter I wear a lot of red.
And that's why I put the line ruby
I
color.
see that.
Oh my God, thank you. And are you like watching cinema or film?
I love movies and cinema. I studied it in high school, college, university. After university, I learned about, obviously it has to do with photography as well. So I absolutely love movies and cinema. And I like world movies. So I watch pretty much any language, anything, as long as it's a good story. And especially if it has good cinematography. I love sci-fi as well, so Star Trek, Star Wars, that type of thing, which I really enjoy. I of course I love any movie that has dancing in it.
That's why I want to know: do you see any potential in film tourism?
Absolutely, I already do it. I think of a movie and I can't remember. It's a Hindi movie with my favorite actor, Hrithik Roshan. And it's Zindagi something. I love Hrithik Roshan.
Zindagi Mile Dobara.
Well, in the movie, they're traveling to Spain. I'm sure you've seen the movie. And that movie after it came out, so many people in India wanted to travel to Spain and recreate that journey. Another one I remember that was so influential, it was called The English Patient. So the story was written by a Canadian author, and the movie took place during the Second World War, and there were images of it that were in Egypt, and you know, the two of them went to these caves, and of course everybody was looking for the hotel, which had already burned down in the 1950s. They were looking for the caves that didn't exist, but just the journey itself was amazing. We have a lot of movies that are shot here. So you know Priyanka Chopra?
Yes, yes, I like her.
So Priyanka Chopra was filming a TV series called Quantico in Montreal, the first 2 seasons. And whenever we would have fans of that particular TV series, especially Indians, I would take them to where the film shoots are. And so we lived their journey through the film shoot. Another place which is very popular for filming in Canada, of course, is the Rocky Mountains. And there's even Indian movies, for example, that have been filmed there. And so film tourism is amazing. The power of cinema for travel is not a little thing. It is a huge thing because, of course, when we dream of a place, even if it's not real in the story, we want to be in that place. There is a movie that was called Catch Me If You Can with Leonardo DiCaprio. So it's a production where it's a true story of a man who would swindle people. And the movie was actually filmed, in Montreal. There was another really well-known Hollywood movie, Curious Case of Benjamin Button. So people who are fans of it, I take them through that journey. And definitely, but you have to know your sets and how to present it. But it's a huge industry, or a huge potential, I should say.
Ruby, if my gaze is correct, then Hollywood and Bollywood film industry lead
Absolutely
80% the world. Do you agree with me?
I'm not sure of the exact percentage because, of course, there are obviously Bollywood and Hollywood produce a lot, but there are others as well. You know, you've got South India and Asia, Egypt as well. Egypt produces a lot of movies, a lot of cinemas. So I would say that in general, between Bollywood, Hollywood, and then the ones that are specific to, for example, Arabic, because I watch movies in different languages, and they all have, potential. I just recently watched an older movie which was called Captain Something's Mandalay. Such a beautiful movie, and it was filmed in Greece on an island where my best friend is from, Kefalonia. And when I told my friend, I said, "Oh, I saw this movie." He goes, "Oh, my father was in that movie." And I said, "Really?" So I watched the movie again. But the images that you see of the beaches and so on. So movies are an escape, especially now during COVID. That's why so many people are watching Netflix. And I'm waiting for the day that this COVID thing is over so that film crews can film as they normally do. But it has such a strong potential. It's such an important medium, and it can, the right story can create something which is not just emotional, but emotional for a traveler to want to go there.
Ruby, Hollywood film shoot in Bangladesh. You know that?
No, I didn't know that.
Yes, just a scene. This is in our capital city, Dhaka. The location is Puran Dhaka. The location is Puran Dhaka. And you cannot imagine how busy, crowdy area that is. And there the film shoot maybe 2 minutes kept scenes in there.
Wow, I had no idea. I mean, it doesn't surprise me, but I
Yes.
had no idea. That's amazing.
Yes, that's why I am very much interested to know about film tourism. And I know you are well known as a community tourism, culinary tourism. Can you tell us about little bit culinary tourism?
Well, food tourism is a huge thing, and some people do it because they're passionate, like myself. Some people don't cook, are not involved with food, and they do it because it's the trendy thing. And I hope that nobody ever falls on a guide who chooses to do this because it's a trendy thing, because it's not fair to the person who's traveling for food. So I understand, when there's trends and there's things and people want to, make more money on it. I even know some colleagues here who do food tourism, but they don't cook, they don't like food, and they memorize it from a book, which is not good. I have always included food tourism. As I mentioned, I was the first one in Montreal, probably in more than likely in Canada. And the reason why I include food is when I do any tour, when I do any trip, even when I'm tour managing, we as human beings, we have five senses. And when you travel, when you eat, when you experience something, you should be able to use all five senses. So when we experience food, we experience it first with our eyes. So, when you go to a market and it's full of colors, ooh, that apple looks so delicious, you want to eat it. And then you bring the apple to your nose and you smell it. And then you take a bite of the apple and you hear it. And then you taste it in your mouth and then you feel it. So food, culinary experience, it should be using all your five senses. And it should be given to guests and travelers by someone who really loves food. And I say that, which is really important, because when I do food trips, it's not just about what you have in your plate. I don't do restaurants. I don't go to any restaurants. I really bring people to small family-run places so that they can hear the story of why this cheese was made, or, why this family makes it this way, or why this family makes it that way. And when we do food tourism, nowadays it's impossible. So in October, I'm giving a training. I just finished the course itself on what the future is of food tourism. Many people are not giving them now because they're afraid, and I've done a little bit of research around the world to see what governments or guides have done for safety protocols. And in fact, what I'm realizing is nobody has done anything, because food manipulation and hygiene are very important in food tourism. So I won't share the details of that course, but just a little hint is that, I asked one of my colleagues, I said, so have you done any food tours? Yes, I have. And what have you done for the protocol? He goes, oh, nothing. We sit at a table and we eat. And I said, but if you're eating at a table and you're less than 2 meters away, then you're not respecting the government guidelines. Oh, yes, but it's food. No, we can't make that mistake with food. And so what I did is I'm finishing the last bit of the research. It's going to be really important. I think food tourism is the last thing that'll open. It's what I make most of my income on. And I think that there has to be, we can no longer be spontaneous. Usually I'm very spontaneous. Someone says, oh, I love chicken. Oh, you know what? I'm going to take you to this place. Oh, I love this, and I'm going to do this. Everything has to be planned, precise, and checked. So food tourism it should be part of every tour. It doesn't have to be a full gourmet meal, but when you're giving a tour, when you're giving an experience in a destination, I think for me, these are my important things. The first is what you're seeing. The next is music and language, so hearing it. And then the next thing is going to be tasting the flavor of foods. The smell, so it could be the smell of food, the smell of flowers. You know, certain countries, certain places, they have their own. You know, in India, when I smell sandalwood, it always reminds me of India. When I go to Egypt and I smell shisha, yeah, apple shisha, it always reminds me of Egypt. If I
Yes.
smell oud, which is an Arabian order, it always reminds me of the Gulf. You know, in Iran, for example, when I smell, there's roses. If I go to Lebanon, for example, the olive oil soap and so on. So each destination, we should be giving people not tours, but experiences. I actually don't even like the word tour anymore. And this is something that I've been teaching, but something that I've been practicing as well. And so whenever I start a tour, I list my things and I'll say, today, I want them to experience 5 things. So if I'm doing something in the winter, well, there won't be any flowers. So what are they going to be smelling in the winter? What are they going to be tasting in the winter? What are they going to be seeing in the winter? What are they going to be feeling in the winter? What are they going to touch? And so when you do that, you turn your tours into something which is incredibly powerful and exceptional. I've organized, I think, 9 of the World Federation Tourist Guides Association's convention. And my first convention was in 1995. So I've been involved for 28 years. And before joining the World Federation, I was already an event planner. I was already working in conferences. And one of the things that I found was that conventions and conferences were really boring. They were just really boring. So in order to change the experience, and this is my signature thing, we did it in Montreal when I organized the one in, what was it? It was in Hong Kong, and then it was in Cyprus, and then it was in Australia. My last one as president was in Egypt, but I also did the same thing when we were in Iran. And one of the things that I always do at a convention is, number one, I always include dance. I'm a dancer. So at our convention in Montreal, after 45 minutes, we had an exercise break, and that exercise break was music and dance local to here. In Egypt, the exercise break was my dance teacher who did folkloric dancing. And I remember my colleague Walid, who was organizing the convention, he says, no way are we going to have dancing at a convention. It's terrible. And I made him sign it. We always joke about it. And that year in Egypt in 2007, we had colleagues from the Gulf, from Jordan, from Morocco. There were over 400 people. And he was so upset at me. I said, look, trust me on this. I know what I'm doing. So after the 45-minute lecture, we put on the music and everybody stood up and everybody started to dance for 5 minutes. It was an exercise. And when he looked at their faces, everybody was laughing. They were smiling. They were happy. And then we went to the coffee break. And during the coffee break, we had Egyptian sweets. So the sweets that Egypt is really well known for. And then, you know, in the evening, for example, we did an event, and for those who wanted to try shisha, we had different flavor shisha. And, so everything that we do in life should use our 5 senses. And when you do that, then you're not just an attendee at a convention or a guest or a traveler, but you are fully involved in that experience. You just have to keep your mind open.
Ruby, are you like fish?
Oh, I'm Bengali. Of course I love fish. It's the one thing I could eat fish 3 times a day.
Oh my God! Hilsha in Bangladesh, this is the main food, main dishes.
I know. Yesterday, I had hilsa.
What about you thinking? Is it possible to offering Hilsha tourism or Hilsha dishes as a culinary tourism? Is it popular or not?
Well, I would be very careful with hilsa because there's one problem. It has too many bones.
Yes. But this is the Hillshire taste is different in the world.
Oh, it is absolutely delicious. For those of you listening, this is like the heaven of fish. It's actually only found in Bengal and Bangladesh, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
And the fish is so tasty. And Bengalis will cook it sort of fried and in a curry, but I mean, it's a beautiful, rich textured meat, but you have to be careful with the bones. But once you get through the bones, oh my goodness, it's heavenly.
Ruby, if I am not wrong, you are know too many languages like English, like Spanish, like Arabic, like Egyptian, like something Hindi. Is it?
Yes, I speak 12 languages, not all of them fluently. I speak 6 fluently. And then I speak 2 others. Let's say I speak them and I don't write them. And then the other ones are conversational. So I could not do a tour in them, but I could easily have a conversation. And then there's another 2 that I understand perfectly. I can't speak it. And for me, language is a passion. My grandfather spoke 13, my father spoke 16, and we all have this gift. And what I find, or the reason is that as a child, the only thing I ever wanted to do is that I wanted to travel. And that's exactly what I do. And what I have always been passionate about is language, because what happens is language is a door. And I'm so blessed and lucky because I speak all of these languages. Whenever I travel to a certain destination, people take me in as a local. So I get to experience things that other people won't do. And when people say, "Oh, I want to learn this language. Oh, I want to learn this language," I will say that there is a trick. You can never, ever, ever learn a language unless you are passionate about the food, the culture, the music, the art. And if you're not passionate about them, you will never learn the language. So sorry to my German friends. I have many German friends, actually very close friends. German was never a language that I liked because I didn't like the food, I didn't like the music, and I learned it, but I don't remember it. Another one that I found very difficult is the sound of Turkish. For me, it's a strange sounding language. What I did discover is I love the languages where the countries are hot and warm. So, of course, the Spanish-speaking countries, I would have to say that Italian is my most favorite language in the world. I love everything about Italy. I love the food. I love the culture. I love the art. I love the music. I love everything. And the men are good looking as well. That always helps. And so Italian for me is like, how can I say, it's almost it's in the heart. I feel it. And then the ones that I also loved, I learned Russian because I had such a wonderful Russian teacher. And I don't work anymore in Russian because we have no Russian tourists, I have no Russian clients. But in actual fact, at one point, I had such a passion for it. My passion for Russian was replaced with Arabic. So both my parents, my father spoke Arabic, my mother speaks Arabic, and I never liked Arabic. I hated the sound of Arabic when I was a child. And I didn't know why. I didn't know why I didn't like the sound. But then I realized I went on a trip to India, and I was in Kolkata. And in the music store, there was music playing. I said, "What is that music? It's amazing." So it was a mix of Hindi and Arabic. And I loved it. And the song was Naughty, Naughty, Naughty Ninganeru. So it's an Egyptian singer. And I listened to this and I went, "This is amazing." And then I realized why I didn't like Arabic. What I love is Egyptian Arabic. So all of the media, the music, and so on. And so what happened one year is I decided in the middle of high season, I took my suitcase and I left for Egypt in the middle of the summer so that I could learn how to dance, and I learned Arabic. And I still continue my studies in Arabic. I don't understand when Saudis or Qatari or Lebanese or Syrians, when they speak, I don't understand them. Egyptians, no problem. So whenever I travel to an Arabic-speaking country, I look at them and I say, "Min fadlik killini Arabi Masriya mish fahmi ayya haga," which means, "Can you please change and speak Egyptian Arabic, because I have no clue what you're saying to me." and they usually switch for me with no problem. So when you learn a language, you always learn it like this. First, you hear. Then you listen. Then you understand. Then you speak. Then you read. And the last thing you learn is how to write. So what's the difference between hear and listen? Have you ever been working on the computer and the radio is playing and you're listening to the music in the background, and all of a sudden your favorite song comes on, and now you stop what you're doing to listen to that piece of music? And then after a while you hear that music over and over again, and then you know the words, so you start singing it, and then you're able to read it. So if you learn a language in this way, to be fluent in a language, you have to use it every day for 4 years. And so that means that you have to immerse yourself, listen to the radio, speak to yourself in the mirror. Of course, with internet today, you can have conversations with people. So anybody who says, "Oh, I'm going to learn a language in 1 month," or someone sells you something, they said, "Oh, in a few weeks you can learn a language," impossible. But first you have to have a love for the culture, the language, and so on. So with Bengali, for example, I'll be very honest, because my father died. So when my father died, or when my father had his stroke, we stopped hearing Bengali in the house. This was in 2004, and he died in 2013. So of course, for 10 years we didn't hear it. But my uncle, who's British, he also passed away. So he would speak to me in Bengali, and of course family in India. But remember that when you learn a language, if you don't use it, you lose it. So what's happened today is that understanding, no problem. Having a conversation, no problem. But I can no longer use it like I used to, because I don't have anyone to speak with anymore. And that's, but I always have it. I mean, it'll never go away. It's there. It's just, that's why I'm not doing anything with you in Bengali, because I'm too shy.
Ruby, we are very near to our program. It's almost 1 hour gone. So last 2 questions. That is for our tourist guide. What are the qualities of a skilled tourist guide?
What are the qualities of I didn't hear the word.
What are the qualities of a skilled tourist guide?
The qualities of a skilled tourist guide. Number 1 on the list. Number one is not speaking, it's listening. We guides, we have big egos. We think we're great. We think we're wonderful. We think we're the best. But many of us lack the skill of listening. So before you give your guest anything, you need to know what they need, what they want. And the second skill I would have to say is being aware. So being aware of your environment, being aware of what your guests, if they need something, if it's too long, too much, don't just keep talking. Stop, have a conversation, listen to them. The other thing that I would say is clear communication. So accents, no problem. But when you are using your voice, invest in your voice. So even though I've been guiding for 28 years, I still have a vocal coach, a singing coach, a music coach, and every 2 years, I get myself re-evaluated. So I have people who are my clients, and I tell them, you tell me all the things you don't like, anything I should change. So don't be afraid to get yourself re-evaluated so you can be better. And knowledge is easy to learn, but don't fall in the habit of making stupid mistakes. For example, when you're in a crowded place, get your group together. Don't stand in the middle of a corner. So guiding techniques are very, very important. Knowledge is easy to learn. And the other skill, which is probably the most important, is storytelling and having a clear voice, using your eyes, using your face, using your body. And I think those are the things that are the most important for a guide.
Thank you. And last of all, I want to say that you are involved with lot of volunteer work, and you are also connect with Canadian Labour Party, and you have a good connection with government. I want to request you for build a tourism relation between Canada and Bangladesh. There are many possibilities in Bangladesh. There is inbound tourism, lot of opportunity, like UNESCO World Heritage Site Sundarban. There is largest sea beach, Cox's Bazar. We have lot of historical site, heritage site, that. From my sides, I want your cooperation to build a strong relation with the Canadian tourism and Bangladesh tourism. And we want to exchange our culture, art, music, our festival. Bangladesh have a lot of festival. There is Boishak. The colorful Boishak is held every year. And there is the Durga.
What I will say is, first of all, my involvement and volunteering in politics has nothing to do with the outside world. The reason I have always been involved in politics, because I always say that if you want something to be done and if you want change to be made, then you have to get involved. What I don't like is people who criticize and say you should do this and you should do that and don't get involved. But my political involvement has nothing to do with the outside world. My political involvement is for my own community, seniors, students, people who live in my neighborhood. As far as the exchange, what I will say, and I'm sure he'll listen to this, is I have several colleagues of mine who are also involved in this political party. There is an organization in Canada, and certainly in Montreal. It's Bangladeshi Association Business Cooperation, and they do a lot of exchange related to all sorts of things and tourism and so on. And I think they are the best ones for it. My involvement, absolutely, I'll be able to help. But I think that we all have our strengths and our good points and our strong points. My strong point is really teaching sort of communication, how to communicate, how to do it. And I can connect you with the organization that do exchanges and so on. Tourism Canada, Tourism Montreal, they don't promote outside. They promote inside. Like the Bangladeshi Tourism Organization, they promote inbound. So the best thing is actually having a connection with this organization so that they can promote, because there are several, I know many people in the community who promote tourism to Bangladesh. And I think that's the best way to do it, because not only that, they're in Bangladesh every year. I know, as I said, I've got several Bengali friends, and when I say Bengali, I mean both Bengali, Bangladesh, and so on. And they're very involved, and I think that's absolutely a great idea. Obviously, COVID has to go first, but in the meantime, you should be making those connections. I can definitely connect you with them, and that will help quite a bit.
And I want to say you are a very good mountaineer, right?
What's
And
that?
you have
I'm a very
a
good what?
mountaineer. You are a very good mountaineer.
Mountaineer.
Yeah.
Yes, you can
Yeah,
say that.
you have experience Rocky mountaineering. I liked very much that if I have chance, then I take it to that mountaineering.
Well, a lot of people don't know the distances, but for me to get to the Rocky Mountains is more than a 6.5 hour flight.
Yes.
So, and in Canada, the distance is it's actually less time for me to go to London than to go to the Rocky Mountains.
Thank you. Be with us and give your valuable time. I am proud for this, and I welcoming you, invite you. Please pay your visit in Bangladesh. And this, I want to sing a song for you. That is মনে পড়ে রুবিরায় কবিতায় তোমাকে একদিন কত করে ডেকেছি রুবিরায় ডেকে বলো আমাকে তোমাকে কোথায় যেন দেখেছি থ্যাংক ইউ
Thank you, everyone. Thank you. It was a pleasure to be here. See you soon.
Okay. Good night.
Bye.
Bye for today. And obviously, I connect with you. Thank you.
Absolutely. Bye, everyone.